So in Total War Rome 2, the Chariots are definitely one of the most OP units in the game. And what I mean by Chariots, I mean by the Scythed Chariots that the Egyptians, Pontus, as well as Seleucid factions can use, and not that stupid Iceni Chariot that really doesn't do anything. So why is that? And I guess the main reason why is due to the fact that Scythed Chariots just do way too much damage against infantry units as a whole, as well as just the units in general. They're able to knock them back a considerable amount of distance, and even though a bunch of nerfs have been in place on chariots, it's still not enough in order to quell the amount of damage they put onto units. Now, in the background right now, you can see a bunch of footage of me testing out the chariots against different types of units. The first types of units I'm sort of testing out against chariots would be pikes. Now, pikes generally in phalanx formation should be able to kill chariots. In fact, their pikes should be able to destroy them 1, 2, 3, easy peasy lemon squeezy. But it seems like this isn't the case actually. In fact, whenever I go full frontal assault against a sort of pike phalanx, with, you know, the bonuses towards mounted units as well as just being in phalanx and using the steady ability, the phalanx formation fails, and then on top of that, it's getting destroyed over and over and over again and just doesn't do enough damage. Initially, the phalanx formation does do quite a considerable amount of damage, able to kill at least 1 or 2 chariots, or at least sort of slow down the chariot's movement, but it's not able to stop them. And over time, if the chariots are left unprovoked and unstopped, then they can just go back, forth, over and over and over again and completely annihilate the entire phalanx formation in 3 to 5 movements. So in the first video, I use a Pontus pikeman, and then I use an Egyptian pikeman, and now I'm switching over towards the spear units of the wooden spears for the ʟᴏᴜ, and again, same thing's happening right now, just complete mayhem. It seems like pikes and spears just have no luck against the chariots whatsoever. They're not able to keep formation, not able to do enough damage regardless of the abilities they use, and just nothing. I even use a Roman Trii in its formations as well, and you know, still nothing's happening one bit. It's like as if the chariots are invincible. There's just no way to stop them. And now I'm switching over to a Macedonian spear unit, the shield bearers to be exact. And again, same thing is happening, just nothing stopping them one bit. So then I tried to say, you know what? Why don't we test out chariots against group of units rather than 1v1? Maybe if they're fighting against groups of units, then sort of the outcome will be a lot better for units that are overpowering the chariots or outnumbering the chariots. And again, right now I'm seeing archers, you know, firing a few volleys into the chariots, and now the chariots are moving through the spear lines. The amount of units that are in between them is actually very, very massive, which means that chariots are being slowed down, they're being stopped and blah blah, but they're not dying. They're not dying one fucking bit, and the spear units are just getting absolutely massacred. Look at this Scythed Chariot, already it's going past the 200 limit. It's going 240, 250 kills right now. What is going on? Holy shit. And yes, a few chariots did die, and these chariots would probably rout later on. But again, for the amount of people that they've killed, holy shit, they were worth the loss. And they're able to even almost rout a couple of the Macedonian units as well. Keep in mind, these are shield bearers. These aren't pike units, accompanied with archers, of course. But I don't think really the outcome would be any different even if it was a pike unit, simply because of earlier tests which prove that pike units have as much luck as spear units, to which they do fuck all nothing against chariots. Right now over here, past the 300 limit, past so many kills for these chariots. Holy fuck, it is insane. Fucking insane in the membrane. Now, in order to really sort of see if chariots are really OP instead of just chariots in general being OP, I decided to test out the Iceni Chariots against what type of unit? The Macedonian Shield Bearer. So I'm taking the Iceni Chariots, I'm using the sort of melee function of the chariots rather than the ranged function of the chariots, and so far they're not doing as much damage as the Scythed Chariots. They do have the same knockback, and they do have kind of the same sort of way you use them. You know, Scythed Chariots, kind of like a bowling ball hitting a bunch of bowling pins and stuff like that. The same thing with the Iceni Chariots, but they're still doing less damage. And I even went into the game and I put like a Scythed Chariot against an Iceni Chariot, and the Scythed Chariot was actually able to kick the Iceni Chariot's ass. It is crazy. It seems like the only advantage that the Iceni Chariot actually has is its range component. Other than that, that's about it. So it seems like pikes, spears, and the Iceni chariot just have no luck against Scythed Chariots. What about horse units? So I'm sending in a Scythed Chariot to go ahead and attack this ʟᴏᴜᴜ sort of horse units. I don't really know what it's called. I don't really care. They're the people with the deer horns or the reindeer horns. And the initial attack was actually pretty good. It wasn't as catastrophic as a sort of attack on the infantry units, but it was still pretty good. Then, when I tried to take the Scythed Chariots and use them against the Sarmatian Royal Horse, that's what they're called, again, the Sarmatian Royal Horse were able to catch the chariots and sort of attack them and kill them. Surround them, so to speak, and stop them from moving. That is very, very, very important, actually. And, you know, I do test this out on the Eastern Royal Cataphracts as well, of the Parthians. And, again, the initial attack that the Scythed Chariots do against the horse units is pretty good. It's not, you know, big or anything. It's not catastrophic like the infantry units, but it's still pretty big. Then, again, just like the ʟᴏᴜᴜ horse units, the Parthians are able to surround the chariots and annihilate them completely, which is actually very interesting, very, very interesting indeed, as it sort of just kind of proves to you that sort of the Scythed Chariots aren't really as OP as we make them out to be. Yes, they are catastrophic against infantry units of spear and pike variety, but against horse units like the Parthians and the ʟᴏᴜᴜ units, not a damn fucking chance is going towards those Scythed Chariots winning. For fuck's sake, those Scythed Chariots, man, those guys are getting annihilated. The first sweep or the first bowling ball strike is good and all, but the second and third one, they don't even ever get a chance to even attack the ʟᴏᴜᴜ units or the Parthian units again. It's crazy because the horse units are just able to annihilate them. So that is definitely something. And over here in the background, you're seeing just, you know, their power against Spartan infantry units right now, and just how, you know, strong they are really against pikes. So over here we can see a pike formation is being completely destroyed by the chariots, and they're able to break through and cause a huge amount of damage while also knocking back a significant portion of the units, sort of breaking the lines of the units in general. And it's pretty crazy to see how Scythed Chariots are able to just annihilate wholesale infantry armies. So then I decided to test this out, this unit out on elephants. And what do you fucking know? The elephants didn't even die at all. In fact, they were able to kick the chariot's ass easy peasy lemon squeezy due to a number of factors. One, the elephants have a ridiculously high amounts of health and armor. And two, because of the fact that, one, you can't knock back an elephant. You just simply can't. That is stupid. It doesn't work. And also because the elephants did the same thing that the horse units do, and they basically chase down the chariots. They also have morale debuffs for the enemy units that are around them, so that's also another thing that's needed to keep in mind. So I also decided to do another test using the same Macedonian units as last time. You know, a couple of shield bearers, a couple of archers, but this time I would also spice it up with cavalry units being introduced as well in order to sort of simulate, you know, an actual battle and how it would go down. So initially, you know, arrows are being fired, you know, a few kills, a few hits, blah blah here and there. Chariots are able to go in and do a devastating first strike against the infantry units as well as the cavalry units. But then, again, just like the Parthians and just like the ʟᴏᴜᴜ, the horse units are able to catch up to the chariots and annihilate them before they make another sweep. And I think that's very important, that chariots are only really OP when they're doing their sweeps or their massive bowling ball strikes. When they're walking about and doing nothing at all, they are easy. They are super easy. If they're standing still, they are completely dead. They have to constantly be moving. They have to constantly sort of be micro. They have to be kept under watch at all times. Otherwise, these things will rout and they will die. So, as you can see, the Scythed Chariots are able to kill off a bunch of units, but it's still way less than it was beforehand without the cavalry units. And over here, I've done another test to sort of just kind of reiterate sort of what I was going with, to sort of prove that the cavalry units are really essential in order to kill chariot units, and really that chariot units aren't OP in of itself. The unit isn't OP, but rather the unit's ability to move and sort of kill while moving and not really stand and do anything at all is the reason why they're OP, and also the knockback and stuff like that. So this is a very like serious thing and serious problem that's happening in the Total War community, because no one really knows how to deal with Scythed Chariots. No one really knows how to deal with them whatsoever, and trying to catch them is really hard and really difficult. You need at least 2 cavalry units, or you need 1 cavalry unit that's sort of in the right place at the right time to catch them when they don't even fucking notice it. Because if you don't, these guys will seriously destroy wholesale armies of infantry units. And over here in this test, I'm going to use a missile cav against the chariots. And again, the chariots, when they do catch up to the missile cav, are able to put out a reasonably good first strike, but afterwards are just not able to do any more damage, simply because, one, missile cav is actually faster than chariots because of the fact that they're lighter and they're also bowmen. And also due to the fact that horse units themselves are like chariots, in which they can fire while moving, and thus they never have to stand still and attack, which is pretty good. The horse units are able to slowly route the chariots through the combined forces of arrows that are specifically tailored towards destroying the morale of an enemy unit, as well as just, you know, being a complete pest and a nuisance and killing off these chariots one at a time from far away. So now another discovery has been made that the chariots are also weak against missile cav. Now, missiles in general are probably very good against chariots, but missile cav is probably even more deadly, because the missile cav are able to keep up with the chariots as well as put a bunch of damage and hurt onto them. Whereas missile infantry themselves are weak against chariots, as they can't run away as fast from the chariots as the horse units, and they also can't really keep up with them, which is a little bit suckish. Now, just for shits and giggles, I also decided to test out attack dogs against the chariots. And as you can see, chariots are actually really good euthanizers of dogs, but then something really interesting happened. So take a look. The first strike, you know, a bunch of dogs are dead. It seems like Fido is definitely not coming home anytime soon. I'm just able to rampage over the Roman infantry units. But then look what fucking happens. The dogs are chasing after the chariots. The dogs are able to catch up with the chariots and attack them over and over again. And in fact, the attack dogs are actually faster than the chariots. So I'm running away, trying to get my chariots to safety. And look at this. It's like the dogs are the fucking plague, able to take down massive chariot units. One of my chariots is routing already. The other one is going to rout. And I don't know how attack dogs can bring down a massive chariot force, but they're doing it right now. So from these tests, we can sort of decipher that pike and spear units, as an overall recap, I know I've been reiterating this a lot, but as a recap, pikes and spear units are very weak against chariots. Do not bring a massive amount of pikes or spear units against sort of an Egyptian or Seleucid player, because if they bring chariots, those things will fucking die, and there's no hope for them whatsoever. Even if they're in phalanx, even if they're in formations, there's just no hope for them. And yes, they can slow down the chariots to a degree, but if you're against an opponent with really good micro, it just doesn't even fucking matter. Same can be said with infantry units, and same could be said with missile units as well as artillery. But missile cav in general, elephants, and attack dogs, these 4 units, or these 4 unit types, are massively good against chariots. And honestly, I think that is the real counter towards chariots, those 4 types of units. Other than that though, the infantry, you can forget about that. Now, I guess if I'd have any suggestions, or if CA was looking at this video and kind of looking at players' response to chariots, I'd say that you shouldn't nerf the chariots per se, because the chariot in of itself is unique, and the way you play the chariot is sort of how it's supposed to be done. So I think that either A, players need to incorporate a lot more cav into their strategies, or B, the units themselves, the infantry units themselves, need to have their formations fixed. I understand they added in formation attack, and it's supposed to make everything tighter, but it seems like they still break formation. It seems like they can't even hold back a chariot. So I have to wonder, are they going to fix the bracing of these infantry units and these spear units and pike units in order to sort of fix this chariot problem? Because I feel like that's supposed to be really needed. Are they going to make chariots a little bit weaker against different types of units? I mean, I don't know necessarily if a damage reduction is going to help, because still the same problem is going to exist, that the units, the chariots themselves, can just walk right through formations. So I think maybe, you know, making even tighter formations, or tightening up sort of the bracing of units, is definitely where CA needs to go. And other than that, that's really about it. Thank you guys for watching, and if you enjoyed it, well, you enjoyed it. but goodbye.